Reading. We all like reading, right? Yeah, we do. And whenever a franchise is made, there's multiple forms of media made for it. And Panty Stocking is no different, which means there's tons of books from mangas, art books, and comics. There's a decent amount of these, so I decided to make a video on these. And a little disclaimer if I missed something because I don't own any of these books. Besides that though, let's jump right into the first book. DatenCity Paparazzi is a book published by Koda Koa Shoten Pictures. This is essentially an art book with a collection of comics. The first 4 comics basically give character descriptions of the main 4: Panty, Stocking, Garterbelt, and Brief. And an extra comic that basically explains how Panty and Stocking uses their weapons. The Panty comic describes how Panty loves sex and she's complaining about how there's no good men around. Then they find out there's a ghost who's sucking all the good men dry. And to beat it, Panty decides to have a sex-off with the ghost, and they defeat it. Beautiful. Such class. The Stocking one is about how Stocking loves sweets and bondage, and there's a spider ghost that tries to tie people up. Stocking gets tied up and has no motivation, and basically Panty tries to give Stocking a treat. The ghost steals the treat, and Stocking makes spider sushi. Before I continue, I just wanted to tell you there's this weird thing in the comics about motivation. Basically, the sisters can't do anything without motivation, and I mean, yeah, that's kind of true to life, so, you know, points for accuracy. I find this weird though, considering there's nothing like this in the show, but to be honest, I don't mind new things. The next few pages just seem to be references, images for the show, not only for characters, but also environments and pieces of art that are really gorgeous. There's also another comic that looks to be about the sisters dealing with paparazzi, but again, I can't read Japanese.
Okay, so like halfway through recording this, one of my friends actually came up with a better theory than me. Basically it's that this is like Panty and Stocking's first day on Earth, and they dealt with like being celebrities and yada yada, and they killed their first ghost. Yeah, it's a lot smarter. Go follow him on Twitter, he's really cool. Fish Cake, or Pish Cake. I don't know how you pronounce that.
One chapter in the book is about a Panty and Stocking exhibition that I sadly didn't mention in my, events video, but I didn't hear about it until now, and it seems like it was hosted by Galaxy. Another chapter in the book focuses on image boards for the show, notes, and for the titles. I'm not going to go through everything in the book concerning it is an 111 page book, but I will say it is pretty cool, seeing all these image boards, character reference, and it's just really nice to look at. There's even a whole page dedicated to reference images for the show's backgrounds characters. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. If you want to read the rest of the book, I'll leave a link in the description below. The Art of PSG, Volume 1, published by Geekboy, is mostly filled with concept art and storyboards. I'm not going to go too in depth because I kind of want to do a video going over Panty and Stocking concept art, but this stuff is really cool to look at. I recommend you give this book a read. The chapters are all split up into the artist's name, the artist being
Atsushi Nishigori, Hiroyuki Imashi, Yo Yoshinari, Shigeto Koyama,
and the full staff. I will say, Panty's design was kind of decided from the start, but Stocking went through a lot of changes, most notably in terms of outfits. Overall though, I really dig this book, and if you can buy it, I recommend you pick it up, and this thing isn't rare at all, but it will run you around $100. The Art of PSG Volume 2 is a book consisting of, to be honest, I don't know. Despite the book going on sale for a decent amount, and it isn't exactly rare from what I can tell, no one's thought to scan this thing and upload it online, which kinda sucks. I would love to see what's inside this book, but sadly I'm a broke ass high schooler. If you have any idea what could be in this book, or if you actually, have this book, let me know in the comments. I would love to, know what's inside this book.
Defeated, least of all by a fallen owl.
The Panty and Stocking art book by Movic is full of reference images for characters. These are just basic reference images that you might have seen before, height charts, expression sheets, and other stuff. Nothing really special here. If you want to look at all these images though, I'll leave them in a Google Drive link, so yeah, go check that out if you want. The Panty and Stocking Animation Artworks is a book produced by Gainax And this is another art book, but it's probably the most in-depth art book, showing sketches for not only scenes in the show, but even promotional material and tons of other stuff. Again, I won't go too in-depth because this book is absolutely huge and I still have 3 more books to go over, but if you want, I'll leave a link to look at it in the description. The Panty Stocking manga was produced by Kodakoa in Japan and Dark Horse Comic in the West. Made by Targo, this is probably the one you guys are expecting me to talk about. This comic is kind of like a collection of extra episodes, and these are honestly pretty cool. I recommend you give them a read. The first chapter, Ghostbusters, is about how Panty Stocking find a cloud ghost that is causing a heat wave since the men can't get an erection and the sweets are melting, and due to this they find the motivation to kill the ghost. The next chapter is about how a porn vendor ghost is getting rid of all the online porn and turning the food into splurge because he was abandoned. No, I am not joking. Damn, that's deep. I didn't know a show about little pew pew guns would be this deep, but dealing with topics like abandonment and depression and how no one needs you and how everyone will replace us with technology is kind of insane. Haha, back to the regular thing. And so Panty Stocking killed that son of a bitch. I'm not gonna go through all the chapters again, but I do recommend you give this thing a read. It's like an extra 9 episodes of the show, and it's really fun to read.
Weird factoid though, Scanty, Knee Socks, and Brief actually don't appear until the last chapter, and they both have really minor roles. Scanty and Knee Socks get ran over while Panty and Stocking question why they're red and why they refer to everyone else as humans, and Brief just gets ran over and we see his human face. I guess this is before they all met, considering this is a prequel to the show, but it is kind of weird how minor of a role they get.
Now, this comic is slightly nail-safe for work, so I'm not gonna go, too in-depth with pictures, because, well, those community guidelines. But if you want to read the book yourself, I left a link in the description, so go ahead if you want to get your rocks off. Now, this is probably the weirdest comic out there, and when I heard it was a real thing, I was extremely shocked. But this is basically like the Targo book, except with a nice hentai touch.
In chapter 1, Panty and Stocking are trying to move up to first class, but they soon realize that there's a ghost on the plane, which is a manifestation of all the hate and regret from businessmen who worked themselves to death on the plane. Damn, this show is really deep. Now to land the plane, since the pilot is, well, dead, Panty has to manipulate his nervous systems by, well, how you manipulate everyone's nervous system. And due to that, they crash into Corset's office.
Next chapter is basically Panty and Stocking going to a festival to find a ghost but end up in a trap by the Demon Sisters. That's because they don't have their heavenly weapons, they strip the Demon Sisters and defeat the ghost. Again, I won't talk about every chapter, but there is a chapter I will talk about, chapter 4. This chapter is set in the Wild West, and the first thing that happens is that Panty and Stocking have incest. No, I am not joking. Seriously, what is with this show and incest? Look, that's not what I'm surprised about. But this means that Panty and Stocking are both bisexual icons. Beautiful. But yeah, if you're okay with seeing anime tits, then go ahead, give this thing a read. It's a decent read, besides, that stuff. But because it has some cool new things for the sisters to do, the Wild West, summer festivals, airplane battles, these are all cool creative ideas, and, I wouldn't expect that from a porn comic. Chemistry Hills or Geekboy Homecoming, whatever. Now, in terms of officiality, it's kind of in the middle ground. It's made by Amashi, as you can probably tell by the art style, but in the time he made this book, he had already left Gainax, and so yeah, it's not kind of official, but it's also official. It's unofficially official. But if you want a season 2, this will probably be forever the closest thing you get, because this is an official continuation of the cliffhanger. Basically, Brief is on the path to Odin City to reassemble Panty. After trial and error, they eventually reassemble Panty and she kills Corset. But then a beam of light comes from the sky, and it's Nova from Space Patrol Luluco, confirming that Panty and Stocking is a part of the Triggerverse. this is something I never thought I would say. Also later in the book we see Garterbelt entering a blue room with Stocking standing over a pentagram with the Demon Sisters in the background looking shocked. This comic is also really cool, and it's probably the closest thing we'll get to a season 2, so yeah, that's neat. The book also features tons of references to other pop culture things. For example, the title Geekboy Homecoming is a literal reference to Spider-Man Homecoming, which came out the same year. And Panty also turns into Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. So yeah. That was a look at all the books, and while yes, they were mostly art books, they were still pretty fun to look at. If you want to give most of them a look again, I'll leave a link in the description, and the comics were also not bad at all. They feel like additional episodes to the show that could genuinely just squeeze into the show no problem. They give the characters so much more to do, going to space, a western episode. These comics are really cool, and I recommend you give these a read. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you probably next month. I don't have a consistent upload schedule. I just upload when I feel like it. Bye bye.